When I was 16, my parents blamed me for my brother's arrest, sternly stated I was bad influence, and expelled me to live. Can you imagine being blamed for someone else's crime, then banished from your own family for it? Because that's exactly what happened to me. They thought they were burying me, but they just dug the foundation for my revenge, a revenge they walked right into, begging for my help. All right, so buckle up, because this isn't just a story. It's the most satisfying thing that's ever happened to me, and I've been waiting a long time to tell it. I'm 29 now, but this whole nightmare started when I was 16. To get it, you need to know my family dynamic. My younger brother, Jackson, was the golden child. From day one, he could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was the designated scapegoat. My parents always expected me to be the responsible one, the example, the free babysitter. Jackson forgot homework. Oh, he was tired from sports. I forgot mine. Irresponsible, manage your time better. Jackson got a C. You tried your best, sweetie. I got a B. A lecture about not applying myself. Yeah, you get the picture. Honestly, I didn't mind being responsible. I actually took pride in it. Honor roll, part-time job, stayed out of trouble. Meanwhile, Jackson was diving headfirst into increasingly stupid stuff. Skipping class, talking back, hanging out with kids who were pure trouble. I tried to warn my parents, telling them about Brandon, who had a juvenile record, and Kevin, who'd been suspended for fighting. These were not good influences. But every time I spoke up, they'd dismiss me. I was jealous. Overprotective. Mom even told me I needed to be more like Jackson and relax. Seriously, Mom? Things really blew up the summer before my junior year. Jackson was about to start high school, and his questionable friends started hanging out at our house more. My parents loved it, thought he was being social. I thought it was a disaster waiting to happen. One night in July, I was closing at the grocery store. Got home around 10:30 p.m. House was quiet. Parents watching TV. I went to bed. Around 2 a.m., I woke up. Voices. Not loud, but that urgent whispering that screams something is horribly wrong. I crept to my door. My dad was on the phone. Yes, this is about Jackson. We'll be right there. Then frantic movement, doors slamming, and they sped off in my dad's car. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, door cracked, waiting. They got back around 5 a.m. Mom crying. Dad's angry voice. And then, Jackson. He was sobbing like I'd never heard. Not sad crying, but pure terror. I stayed hidden. Something told me to keep quiet until I knew what happened. Around 7 a.m., Dad knocked. Get dressed. Family meeting. That's when my entire world went sideways. Turns out Jackson and his brilliant friends had broken into the high school. Not to steal anything valuable. They weren't that smart. They just wanted to vandalize the principal's office because Brandon had a vendetta. Broke a window, spray-painted walls, knocked over file cabinets. The alarm went off while they were trying to access the principal's computer. Police caught all four of them, red-handed. Jackson had a can of spray paint in his hand. Open and shut case. My parents sat me down. Jackson was there, looking like death. Head down, eyes red. Dad was pacing. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Then my dad said something that made my blood run cold. He said, "We need to talk about how you influenced Jackson to do this." I actually laughed. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. They proceeded to explain how this was my fault. My constant criticism of Jackson's friends created a negative environment. I made Jackson feel like he needed to prove himself. I was a bad role model for working too much and not spending enough time with him. My complaints pushed him to act out because he felt I didn't support him. The mental gymnastics to reach this conclusion? Olympic level. I tried to defend myself. I'd warn them. I told them Brandon was trouble. But they weren't hearing it. They needed a convenient scapegoat, someone who wasn't their precious golden child. And I was right there. My mom, I kid you not, said, "If you had been a better big brother, Jackson would never have felt the need to seek approval from those boys." Jackson? He just sat there. Said nothing. Didn't defend me. Didn't correct them. He let them blame me for something I had actively tried to prevent. Then they dropped the real bomb. I was being sent to live with my aunt and uncle in another state. They said I needed to be removed from the situation so Jackson could focus on getting his life back together without my negative influence. They'd already arranged it. I had a week to pack. They were pulling me out of my school, away from my job, everything. And the kicker? They took my phone. No contact with friends, no social media. You need to focus on reflecting on your role in this situation. I was 16, exiled from my own family for something I didn't do, but tried to prevent. Jackson's punishment? House arrest and community service. He got to stay home, comforted by our parents. I got banished. The drive was 6 hours. My dad drove. We didn't speak. He dropped me off, gave my aunt a folder of my info, an awkward side hug, and told me to think about what you've done. Aunt Julie and Uncle Robert were good people, but they were clearly uncomfortable. Small house in rural Pennsylvania. Guest room for me. They were in their 50s, their kids grown. They weren't prepared for a teenager. The first few weeks were hell. No phone. No connection to my old life. My parents had explicitly told my aunt not to let me use the landline except for emergencies. I couldn't call friends, couldn't check on my job. Cut off. Not just physically, but digitally. My aunt was instructed to monitor my internet. They didn't want me spreading my version of events. The worst part? Not knowing what people were being told. Were my friends wondering why I disappeared? Were my parents telling everyone I was a problem? Was anyone defending me? Or did everyone just buy their narrative? School started. I was the weird new kid who showed up 3 weeks late. No social media, no phone. Making friends was impossible. I ate lunch alone, did homework alone, spent most of my time in my room. When asked where I moved from, I'd give vague answers. Family stuff. Not on social media. In 2012, that was like saying you didn't believe in electricity. They looked at me like I was an alien. But here's the thing about isolation. It gives you a lot of time to think. And I had a lot to think about. I thought about how my parents treated me. How nothing was ever good enough, while Jackson got praised for the bare minimum. How they'd blame me for his mistakes. How they'd thrown me away like trash to suit their narrative. And I got angry. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, calculated kind. The kind that makes you focused. If they wanted to throw me away, fine. But I was going to succeed in spite of them, not because of them. I threw myself into school. I was already a good student, but I became obsessive. I studied every night until my aunt told me to sleep. I joined the debate team because it didn't require a social circle and looked good for college. Volunteered at the library for the same reason. My aunt and uncle noticed. Uncle Robert pulled me aside 2 months in, asking if I was okay. I told him I was fine, just busy. He looked at me with this sad expression and said, "You know this situation isn't fair to you, right?" It was the first time anyone in my family had acknowledged that. I nearly cried. He continued, "Your parents are handling this all wrong, but you're doing the right thing, focusing on school and your future. Don't let their mistakes define yours." That conversation changed everything. I realized I didn't have to accept their version of reality. I could create my own path. Their opinion didn't matter. My aunt called my parents weekly to update them. "He's doing well in school. Honor roll again. Yes, he's behaving. No, he hasn't asked about coming home." That last part was important. After 3 months, I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to go back to a house where I was blamed for everything and appreciated for nothing. So when my aunt relayed messages about visiting, I'd say I was too busy. Christmas that first year was weird. They sent a package. Generic gifts. A sweater that didn't fit. A gift card to a restaurant that didn't exist in Pennsylvania. A card. "Hope you're learning and growing." No phone call, no video chat. Just a package screaming. We did the minimum required to pretend we care. I sent nothing back. Months turned into years. They'd call my aunt occasionally, but never asked to speak to me directly. I figured they were fine with the arrangement. Out of sight, out of mind. They could focus on fixing Jackson. Meanwhile, I was crushing it academically. Junior year, 4.0 GPA. Senior year, every AP class, high scores. My college essay was about overcoming adversity. I didn't name names, but anyone reading between the lines knew. I got accepted to a good state university with a partial scholarship. Not a full ride, but combined with loans and work study, I could make it work. Aunt and uncle were thrilled. They offered to help with the rest, but I declined. I'd saved every dollar from my library job. I was doing this on my own. My parents found out when my aunt told them. My mom called. First conversation in almost 2 years. "Congratulations on college," she said stiffly. "Your father and I are very proud." I almost laughed. Proud of what? The kid they abandoned? "Thanks," I said, keeping my voice neutral. Long pause. Then, "You're welcome to come home for a visit before you start school." "I'm good," I replied. "Got a lot to prepare." Another pause. "Jackson's doing much better. He's back on track. We thought you'd want to know." What I wanted to say was, I don't care. You blamed me for his mistakes. You threw me away. You chose him over me. You don't get to act like a proud parent now. Instead, I just said, that's great. I'm glad he's doing well. I have to go now. I hung up before she could respond. I left for college that fall and never looked back. Pre-law, political science minor. 2 part-time jobs. My life became classes, studying, work. Maybe 2 hours of free time a day. But I didn't mind. Staying busy meant less time to think. Law school was brutal. First year almost broke me. The Socratic method, the workload, the competition. I watched classmates drop out. But I remembered sitting in that guest room in Pennsylvania, angry and isolated. I used that memory as fuel. Every time I wanted to quit, I thought about my parents dismissing me. When I was exhausted, I thought about that family meeting where they blamed me. When I was stressed about exams, I remembered Mom's words about me being a bad influence. First year, I was a research assistant. Second year, the criminal law clinic, working actual cases under supervision, representing clients who couldn't afford private attorneys, mostly juveniles. That's when I knew. This was it. This was my career. Third year, editor of the Law Review, even longer hours. But I also secured a summer internship at a public defender's office. Real courtroom experience. I saw seasoned attorneys fighting for clients society had written off. Kids who made stupid mistakes getting second chances. I graduated top 10%. Passed the bar on my first try. Got hired by a small criminal defense firm specializing in juvenile cases. The irony? It wasn't lost on me. The kid blamed for his brother's juvenile crime was now defending juveniles accused of crimes. My first year as an actual attorney was a steep learning curve. I lost cases I thought were sure wins. Won cases I thought were hopeless. But I learned fast. I learned how to read judges, cross-examine witnesses, find holes in a prosecutor's case. I learned that sometimes the best outcome isn't an acquittal. It's getting your client into a treatment program instead of jail, or charges reduced so they don't have a felony for life. I worked 60 to 80-hour weeks. But I loved it. Every kid I helped felt like a small victory against the system that had failed me. By year 3, I had a reputation. Other attorneys referred clients. Judges knew my name. I'd built something real from absolutely nothing. During all this time, college, law school, career, my parents reached out maybe a dozen times. Birthday cards with generic messages. Occasional email asking about school. Once, my dad called to say my grandmother passed. But never real conversations. They never apologized. Never acknowledged what they'd done. And I never reached out to them either. Why would I? They'd made their choice years ago. I heard through my aunt, who I stayed close with, that Jackson graduated high school, went to community college for a year, dropped out, and was now working retail management. He never left our hometown. My parents still treated him like he could do no wrong. Good for him, I guess. We hadn't spoken since the day I left their house. Fast forward 3 months ago. I'm 29, 3 years into my career. Good reputation in juvenile criminal defense. I win most of my cases. I'm not rich, but I'm doing well. Own apartment, bills paid, student loans almost gone. One Tuesday morning, I'm at my desk. My secretary tells me I have a walk-in consultation. The name on the intake form, Janet and David Stevens. My parents' names. But it didn't register. Stevens is common. I told her to send them in. My office door opened. I looked up from my paperwork, and I found myself staring at my mother and father. 13 years older, a lot grayer, but definitely them. The look of shock on their faces was priceless. My mom actually gasped. My dad's mouth literally fell open. They stood frozen in the doorway like they'd seen a ghost. For me, the moment was surreal. I'd imagined running into them hundreds of times. In my imagination, I always had the perfect thing to say, the perfect way to make them understand. But now, in the moment, I felt strangely calm. Detached. They looked older. Mom's hair was mostly gray. She'd gained weight. Dad had aged harder. Deeper lines, thinner hair, that worn-down look of years of stress. They were dressed like they were going to church. Formal clothes for a serious meeting. And I just sat there, pen in hand, looking at them like any other potential clients. Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, I said, my voice perfectly professional. Please have a seat. They stood frozen. My mom found her voice first. Danny, is that really you? Danny? They hadn't called me that since I was a kid. I'd been going by Daniel professionally for years. Hearing that old nickname felt like nails on a chalkboard. It's Daniel now. I corrected, keeping my tone neutral. And yes, it's me. You're here for a consultation. They stumbled into the chairs across my desk like they'd forgotten how legs worked. My dad kept staring at me like I was a ghost. My mom had tears in her eyes. Shock, guilt, fear, who knows? The office felt too small. My professional space, the one place I felt completely in control, now contained the two people who'd made me feel most powerless. But I had the desk between us, my law degree on the wall, my name on the door. This was my territory now, not theirs. We had no idea, my mom stammered. We've been looking for a defense attorney for weeks, and someone recommended this firm, and we just made the appointment, and we didn't know it would be you. Her voice trailed off. She was looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time. The professional clothes, the organized desk, the framed law degree from a school they didn't even know I attended. Interesting, I said, still neutral. Let's talk about why you need a defense attorney. They exchanged glances. Finally, my dad cleared his throat and said the words I'd been waiting 13 years to hear. It's Jackson. He's been arrested. I raised my eyebrows, feigning surprise. I see. What are the charges? My mom burst into tears. Real ones this time. Ugly crying she tried to muffle. My dad looked like he'd aged another 10 years. Embezzlement, he said quietly. From his employer. About $45,000 over 2 years. I nodded, making notes. That's a serious charge. Was he caught with evidence? Or is this accusatory? They have evidence, my dad admitted. Bank records, forged invoices, the whole thing. His lawyer says he's looking at 2 to 5 years in prison if convicted. His lawyer? I asked. So he already has representation? A public defender? My mom sobbed. But they don't care about him. They just want him to take a plea deal. We need someone who will actually fight for him. Someone who understands he's a good person who made mistakes. I wrote more notes, mainly to process this absolute insanity. Jackson arrested for a serious crime. My parents desperate enough to seek private help. And through sheer cosmic justice, they'd ended up in my office. I see, I said finally. And you want to hire me to defend your son, Jackson, against embezzlement charges? Yes, my dad said quickly. We know this is awkward, given our history, but you're his brother, and someone told us you're one of the best juvenile defense attorneys in the area. And we thought, I don't handle adult cases. I interrupted. My specialty is juvenile criminal defense. Your son is what, 27 now? That's outside my area of expertise. The hope that had briefly appeared in my mom's eyes died. Oh, we didn't realize. However, I continued, I do know several excellent criminal defense attorneys who handle white-collar crimes. I'd be happy to give you some referrals. I pulled out a fresh legal pad and started writing down names and phone numbers. Good lawyers who would give Jackson a fair shot. As I wrote, my mom finally said what I'd been waiting to hear. Daniel, we're so sorry. We had no idea you'd become an attorney. We're so proud of you. I looked up. 13 years. 13 years of silence. Of being treated like I didn't exist. Of them choosing Jackson over me again and again. And now, when they needed something, suddenly they were proud. With all due respect, Mrs. Stevens, I said, my voice still professional, but with an edge now. You've had 13 years to be proud of me. You had 13 years to apologize. To reach out. To acknowledge that what you did to me was wrong. You chose not to. My dad shifted uncomfortably. We thought you needed space. We thought you wanted to be on your own. No, I said firmly. You blamed me for Jackson's mistakes and threw me away because it was easier than holding your golden child accountable. And now that he's in trouble again, you show up at my office asking for help. The irony is almost poetic. We made mistakes, my mom whispered. We know that now. We should have handled things differently back then. But please, he's still your brother. I finished writing the referrals and slid the paper across my desk. These are 3 excellent attorneys. Any of them would be a good fit for Jackson's case. I'll make a note in their files that you're coming on my recommendation. That's it, my dad asked. You're not going to. You're just giving us referrals. What exactly did you expect? I asked. That I'd drop everything to save the brother who sat silently while you blamed me for his crimes? The brother who never once reached out in 13 years? The parents who chose him over me at every opportunity? We're family, my mom said desperately. Family, I repeated, tasting the word. You know what I learned while I was living with Aunt Julie and Uncle Robert? Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up for you. It's about who believes in you when things are hard. They were more family to me in 1 year than you were in 16. The silence in my office was heavy. Outside, I could hear phones ringing, normal office sounds. But in here, time had stopped. Finally, I stood up, signaling the consultation was over. I genuinely hope Jackson gets a good attorney and a fair outcome. Nobody deserves to have their life destroyed over mistakes. But I'm not that attorney. And I'm not going to pretend we're a family who can just move past 13 years of you treating me like I didn't exist. My parents stood slowly. My mom was still crying. My dad looked like he wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. As they reached the door, my mom turned back one last time. For what it's worth, we really are proud of you. Look at everything you've accomplished. I accomplished it without you, I replied. That's the part you need to understand. I survived being thrown away by my family at 16. I put myself through college and law school. I built this career from nothing, with no help from you. So, yeah, I'm proud of myself too. But you don't get credit for that. They left without another word. I sat back down at my desk, staring at the closed door for a long time. Part of me felt a flicker of guilt. They looked so desperate, so broken. But the bigger part of me felt vindicated. They'd come looking for the son they'd thrown away, hoping he'd save the son they protected. And they learned that the throwaway son had become someone they needed, but couldn't have. My secretary knocked. You okay? That seemed intense. Yeah, I said, surprising myself by smiling. I'm actually really okay. Were those the parents you told me about once? The ones who sent you away? I nodded. They didn't recognize me until they walked into my office. They were looking for a good defense attorney for their other son and ended up here. She whistled low. That's some karma right there. Yeah, I agreed. Some karma. I heard through the grapevine. One of the attorneys I'd referred them to, that Jackson, did take a plea deal. 18 months in minimum security, 5 years probation. Not great, but better than it could have been. The attorney told me my parents had asked about me, wanted to know if there was any way to reconnect. I told him to tell them no. About a month after that office visit, a letter arrived. My mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. For pages. She apologized for everything. For blaming me, sending me away, not staying in contact, choosing Jackson. She explained they'd been in denial, that they'd been terrible parents to me. She understood if I never wanted to see them again, but wanted me to know how sorry they were. She even included photos, me at graduation and my first job, things Aunt Julie must have sent them. She'd kept them in an album. I read it twice, put it in my desk drawer. Didn't respond. Haven't. Don't plan to. 3 weeks later, my secretary buzzed me. Your mother is online too. Should I tell her you're in a meeting? I stared at the blinking light for 30 seconds. Then I picked up. Daniel Stevens. My professional voice. Daniel, it's Mom. Her voice was shaky. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I need to tell you something about Jackson. He took the plea deal. I already know. One of the attorneys I referred you to mentioned it. It's not that. She paused. He wrote you a letter. Asked me to mail it. I have your office address from the business card you gave us. Don't send it, I said. He's really struggling with this, Daniel. He wants to apologize for everything. For not defending you back then, I don't care what he wants to apologize for. I cut her off. You need to understand something. I'm not holding on to anger. I'm not waiting for apologies. I've moved on. My life is good. You're not part of it. And Jackson isn't part of it. That's not punishment. That's just reality. She was quiet for a moment. Then we destroyed our relationship with you. I understand that now. But he's still your brother. No, I said calmly. He's a guy I used to know who shares my DNA. That's it. I hope his time in prison helps him figure his life out. But I'm not his support system, and I'm not yours. Can we at least meet for coffee sometime? Just to talk. No. Goodbye, Mrs. Stevens. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking a little, but I felt clearer. That was 8 months ago. They haven't tried contacting me since. Jackson started his sentence in February. I heard he's doing fine in minimum security. My parents visit him every week. Good for them. That's what parents are supposed to do. Show up for their kids. Meanwhile, I got promoted to senior associate at my firm last month. Bigger office, better cases, significant raise. I'm working on a case right now that could set a precedent for juvenile sentencing reform in our state. It's the kind of case that can define a career. Aunt Julie and Uncle Robert drove 8 hours to take me out for a celebration dinner. Uncle Robert gave me a fancy engraved pen. For signing all those important legal documents, he grinned. They were there when I graduated college. They helped me move into my first apartment. They call me every Sunday just to check in. That's what family looks like. And it has nothing to do with blood. Last week, I was in court representing a 16-year-old caught with his older brother's illegal substances. Prosecutor wanted to charge him as an adult. The kid swore he didn't know what was in the bag his brother asked him to hold. His parents believed him. I believed him. I got the charges reduced to a misdemeanor, probation, mandatory counseling. The kid gets to finish high school without a felony record. His parents hugged me in the hallway, crying with relief. That case was personal for me. Different circumstances, same dynamic. Younger kid getting blamed for the older one's mess. Except this kid had parents who fought for him instead of throwing him away. I made sure to tell them that. Keep believing in him, I said. Keep showing up. That's what matters. The mom looked at me. You're an amazing attorney. Your parents must be so proud. I just smiled. The people who matter are proud. That's enough. So, that's where things stand. My parents know where I am, but they can't reach me. Jackson's serving his time. I'm building a career helping kids who actually need someone in their corner. And Aunt Julie just texted me asking what I want for my birthday dinner next month. I won. Not because I got revenge or made them suffer. I won because I built a life so good that their absence doesn't hurt anymore. I'm not the kid they threw away. I'm the man they'll never get to know. And honestly, I'm completely fine with that. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced such a profound betrayal from family? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.